Welcome to Beer Fueled. I am your host at Beer Fueled Hop, Chris Hopper with 2 P's. As always, joined by at Ryan Miner _FFB at Beer Fueled 30. Those Twitter handles and that intro presented by the FF Face Off. Gentlemen.
Look at you. What up, what up, what up?
This is what happens when he's half awake. It's like he just goes into...
It's like go smooth. It was the smoothest transition ever.
Probably was my smoothest intro in a long time. Something happens, that recording light comes on, even though we don't have a real light, and it's time.
It's time.
Doesn't matter how tired I am. I also cracked a beer, so that helps too. Got a lot of news to get into this week. Lot of people being bad human beings, a lot of coaching hires, some speculation that's pretty interesting. And then we're going to take a look back at the 2021 NFL Draft Class for Dynasty as we continue our NFL Draft Lookback. So we'll go look at the 21 class, set some Dynasty values there. Before we do that, we're drinking because we do that here. So where's the drop? There's the drop.
What's fueling Beer Fueled?
Whoever. Dan, you probably got something interesting, right?
I mean, something interesting to me. I'm continuing the NA game because I've been very fascinated in finding and drinking different ones. And I found one that I'm super pumped in, and that's the Guinness Draw NA. One of my favorite beers of all time in general. And to try it in an NA form to see what the difference could actually be is super interesting to me. So here we are.
I have Apple Zaps as we continue cleaning out my fridge and revisiting some things from a little while ago. I had Apple Zaps on over the summer. Apparently still had a can of it. That's what we're going to. Cereal-inspired sour ale with apples from Platform Beer Co. Platform Beer Co. is out of somewhere. They exist in Cleveland, Ohio. So that is Apple Zaps. It is designed, I can't say this specifically, but it's designed to mimic Apple Jacks, and this particular variant was canned on 2/17 of 2021. So
Nice.
It's almost a year old. 2 years old. It's almost 2 years old.
Can't wait to hear that review. And I'm drinking. Oh, go ahead.
2 years old. Jesus.
I was going to say, surprisingly, not a lot's fallen off, but we'll review later.
And I have Sheboygan Brewing Company's Blueberry Cream Ale. This time I actually did it. I'm doing it out of the glass. So last time I did it in the can. This time I'm doing it out of the glass.
Hope that blueberry come out a little bit.
He's already going back to the well.
Oh yeah. I can't drink as much as I used to. It's like I'm so busy doing other things. It's like
that's why I drink NA. That's why I'm going down that rabbit hole.
I gave him the out as soon as I started going through my fridge because I was literally out of space. I couldn't hold anything else. I had to start drinking what I had. So
I can't pull over any further. He's already pulled over.
All right. Full review about halfway through the show and all that. Just like normal, let's get into the news and maybe we'll find some flow to this show.
News.
A lot of conversation pieces to get into. Most recently, Derek Carr visited the Saints this week, and NFL Network's Tom Pelissero is reporting that the framework for a trade between the Saints and the Raiders is in place. Something has to happen before Tuesday, before Carr's 2023 salary becomes fully guaranteed. Well, it doesn't have to happen. It would be good for the Raiders if it happened. Carr has a full no-trade clause, so he's kind of got him by the balls here because he can veto any move. If he wants his salary for 2023 to become fully guaranteed, he can just say, no, I'm not waiving it, and then they're forced to cut him. So
it sounds like they have a trade involved already with the Saints. It's already done.
That's what I'm saying. They have framework in place, but Carr's got to approve it.
Yeah.
So
then we have to wait for the league year.
Yeah, the league year has to actually kick off. But yeah, Carr has to sign off on it, but there is framework in place. So, what do you think? if this goes down? You guys want to speculate on this now? I think first off, do we think this goes down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the Saints, like if you look at the Saints capital salary cap the next 2 years, especially draft capital, they're only moved to make sense of what they've done the last 3 years, really the last 2 years post Breeze. It's to try to squeeze out every bit of a playoff run with this aging roster and no fucking money or no significant capital to fix it. Like they're in the hole right now, not only this salary cap, like not only through this season, but and also 2024. Like they're in rough shape, and to have them trading for Carr is not a shocking move at all. It's the bleed they got to put on. So,
yeah,
the bandit they got to put on the bleed. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I had to mute Ryan. You can.
Sorry, my son's watching
good.
the honor, so he's like telling me all about it.
No, you're good. I saw what was going on. Not a problem at all. Like we do this live, that's gonna happen. So, I'm with you, Dan. I think that this is what they have to do to make sense of this. It's what they have to do to try to keep this thing going. The Saints are, man, they have got to be the least, for fantasy, one of the least attractive everythings right now. But they're also one of the most intriguing. So I don't really know how you balance that. At full health and everybody playing up to their capability and everything, you bring in Derek Carr and have Alvin Kamara doing what he does and, some compliment to that because Kamara's fallen off since he didn't have Ingram on the other side of him. You got the emergence of Olave. You can get Michael Thomas healthy. All of a sudden, this offense actually looks pretty formidable. But right now, they're not in a great spot. And, they really have two options. It's stop the bleeding or make this trade. Or by stop the bleeding, I mean cut their losses or make this trade. So yeah, I think they do make this trade. It is a last ditch effort to try to salvage what they got out of an aging roster.
Did you guys already say that they're 57.3 million in the hole? Also,
we didn't give the number, but Dan said they're in the hole for the next 2 years.
Ryan, just go ahead and look up what the 24 number is. I think they're one of the few teams that are in the hole for 24 as well. So this was like the move. Like as soon as I started thinking about like what's going to happen in free agency, especially with the quarterback class, and then with the speculation of people, it's like the Saints going after Derek Carr feels like their best case scenario. And I guess we'll see what they do with like I haven't dug deep into what they can do, beyond to fix the salary cap problem. These front office guys are wizards, so they'll find a way to get through it. But
yeah,
that move to trade up for Olave just continues to be like this team. Like it makes no sense why this team feels like they're in like this playoff hunt. Like even if they win the South next year, like what are they really going to do in the playoffs? Like nothing.
And I don't think we should expect them to win the South, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But yeah,
exactly.
We're going to get into that here in just a second. But I don't think that the South is going to be quite the anyone's ball game laughing stock that it was last year. I mean,
yeah, the Saints will still be.
Well, and the Bucs will probably end up down there somewhere. And we'll talk about it in a minute.
Because the Saints are still like rated 32nd for 2025 with 39 million in the hole, but in that was 2024. I'm sorry, 2025 they're out of it and they'll have 97.5 million in cap space. But
for now,
those cap spaces are very flowing because it shows the Chicago Bears at 508 million. So
I mean,
it's a lot of contracts that haven't been made yet.
It just shows the insurmountable dead cap they have from the Breeze contracts, from Michael Thomas contracts and everything else. Like it's obviously going to get better, but right now it's just what we can speculate and what we can kind of project what they will probably do is it's very minimal. So that's why this move makes sense.
Well,
and you look at the deal though too, and it's like they're 57.3 million in the hole, but they're also one of the teams that made space to try to get Deshaun Watson at one point too.
I know.
And it doesn't make sense. So it's like I don't really even pay attention to that much to the cap space. I'm like, oh, okay, you're at 57 million in the hole, but you figure it out anyways, and then next thing you know, they're 20-some million out of it.
There's only so
It's
much
gonna
you
be
can do to
just-
figure it out, though, too. So, I mean, they'll figure it out, but it's at what cost do you figure it out, right? I mean, yeah, you can get people to restructure deals, but, like Michael Thomas isn't really incentivized to do a giant restructure right now.
He already did though.
Yeah, but
Didn't he?
they're
I
still
think he did one a couple
super
weeks ago,
over it,
or-
so
Yeah.
well, they couldn't have done one a
We'll
couple
see.
years ago. League year's not open.
No, I mean like
But-
a couple weeks, like a few weeks ago.
But anyway, we'll see. Fantasy impacts of this, if it goes down, we can talk about that when it goes down. What that means for Olave. Let's just say it's better than what they had last year for right now.
Let's hope.
NFL PA's DeMaurice Smith would like to see the scouting combine eliminated. And this is something that's picked up steam the last probably 2 years or so as they look to either revamp or eliminate this. We've heard talks of on-field workouts going away and just having the pro days for that. So do you guys, what are your thoughts on the scouting combine? I think we're all probably in agreement that it's a valuable tool for us if you know how to apply what you get out of it. Which is not like just straight, oh, he benched this many times, or it feeds a lot of other like composite metrics that are helpful. It's good for teams to get a look at a lot of players by having everybody in one spot. But at the same time, I don't disagree with Smith's reasoning, which is that it subjects players to invasive and unfair questioning. We've heard some of the horror stories of the awkward questions that come out of the interview process. They lose basically all of their HIPAA rights as their full medicals are exposed for everyone, which, I mean, look, team's going to invest millions of dollars in you at some point, and they need you to be physically healthy. I think that there's a right to those and a trade-off there. Not a right, but a willing trade-off there that can happen. So, yeah, this other reasoning, I think, was that most of the on-field workouts just don't matter or mean anything, and that I agree with.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, I mean, it's just, gym shorts Olympics, right? It's to see who runs the fastest and then which team's going to overpay because of it, right? There's some, like as Hopper mentioned, there's some actual benefits to people that do this shit like us. So there's actual benefits to players because there's money, to be made correlated to this. It's what could make a guy go, from round 3 to round 1, from, day 3 to day 2. And, there's a lot of money that's tied into that because these contracts, after these rookie contracts, there's really nothing there.
And they have the
It just
option to
means
not
more-
work out if they're that worried about it. So
That too, right? And there's more curated for the pro days. Like, I'm all for removing the interview process. I think that's, as you mentioned, I think that's pretty detrimental. And I think it just gives these people like weird ways to just try to, I don't know, it feels predatory in a sense.
I don't think you should remove the interview process because I think there's value there as far as, knowing where a guy's at, mentally understanding the game, being able to dissect plays, that type of thing. But there's got to be like a code of ethics around it with legitimate punishment should those lines get crossed, I think.
Oh no, I that part, yes, right. Like, there's going to be an interview process, whether it be at the combine or during the pro days, anyways, or just behind closed doors where no one knows. There should be conversations. Again, it's a benefit to both people, to both the player and the and the coach that's doing it or the GM that's doing it. So yeah, it's also makes NFL a bunch of money. So I don't legitimately see the combine going away.
Yeah,
I guess we'll see.
I don't see it going away because for scouting reasons, like you have all the players at one location, and then you can pick and choose during that school's pro days to who to send there and who not to send. Like, all right, yeah, we're gonna go to Michigan's pro day, but we're gonna skip out on Minnesota's. You kind of like see more of the players at the combine. help you understand like what you want to do during that pro day. Like, what do you want to see on pro days that you can't see during the combine?
Yeah, and every major sport has a combine. They're not as heralded or sought after as the NFL drafts because the NFL is, and I guess to some degree the NBA, are the only sports where your draft picks are expected to make an immediate impact. Hockey, like, they don't even join the organization most of the time right after they're drafted, unless you're like a top 3 pick. Otherwise, you're going back to college or overseas or whatever. In baseball, you're in the minors for 3 years
So
or
you start working your way up
before you contribute. So the NFL, definitely a lot more emphasis on draft picks. I don't think it ever goes away. It might get reimagined. It might get revamped. I don't think it ever goes away.
It'd be nice for them to try to figure out how to like make the actual drills
Worth it.
worth a damn. Like, put them in pads or something, right? Like, I don't care what a player looks like when he's throwing off balance, no coverage, no pass rush, like nothing.
Like
it looked flashy. It looks cool, but there's nothing to it.
Like 7-on-7 drills with some basic concepts and things like that.
Yeah. I get it. Like, you don't want a player to get hurt there, so you may see less people participate, or just get rid of the drills altogether, I guess, in that way.
And they might. I think you have to have a way to athletically gauge them, but just do it at pro days.
Yeah.
If you're that interested.
Let them curate their own thing that, can, it's like what anybody else does with the interview too. Like, they're going to try to
strengths.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we already know what we're seeing anyways. We see it on the football field during the college football season when they say like projected first round, or, recently we just saw the Senior Bowl and some players are starting to move up that way too.
Yeah.
So we have more than just the combine that
we do.
Like helps evaluate these players too.
Yeah.
All right, Brock Purdy, he's going to have surgery on his torn UCL, but may not be Tommy John. The report from Rappaport basically says he's expected to be ready by training camp. Everything that we saw, it said 6 months, so into February, that would put him near the start of the regular season. Training camp's a real quick return from a torn UCL, even for football. So I don't know if they found it wasn't that bad. I don't know if there's a really aggressive rehab they can do. Sounds like it's not going to be full-blown Tommy John if they're expecting him to turn around that quick. But
dodged the bullet on that one.
Yeah, and more interestingly, George Kittle said today that the starting quarterback job is Purdy's to lose.
I mean, once they trade away Trey Lance for a ransom, sure.
If you can, yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's enough teams out there.
Somebody will.
That would take a stab on on a high end, on a high upside quarterback with still 2 years left on his rookie deal. I mean, it's not ideal, but
yeah,
it depends what the Niners. I guess it depends what the Niners are asking for. It depends how much of the sunk costs they want to actually pay.
Yeah,
or
there's a lot of quarterback things that still have to shake out too. I mean, Carr is going to be the first domino that falls, but after that, especially after the draft,
yeah. Yep.
There's a lot that's going to have to shake out.
It's going to happen on draft night.
Yeah. And you've got some bridge guys out there, too, with Garoppolo being a free agent and Heineke going to be a free agent. And, some of these upper tier probably better served as backups, but could start if need be. Cowboys are expected to franchise tag Tony Pollard. We'll have a franchise tag episode later, so I'm just throwing that out there as informational. The Titans named pass game coordinator Tim Kelly as their offensive coordinator. Wasn't clear to me, and I didn't bother to look if he was their pass game coordinator or if he is referenced as a pass game coordinator, because that's the role he had with the 2021 Texans. But in any event, that's a unenthusiastic hire, in my opinion. On an offense, it's hard to get enthusiastic about the passing game.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. On an offense, it's hard to get enthusiastic about.
Dan doesn't even have anything to say.
That's
you're on YouTube. You saw the actual reaction.
That's how enthusiastic this is.
Tom Brady going to begin as a broadcaster in 2024, something to look forward to. AJ Green retired from the NFL after 11 seasons. Ryan, I don't think we did this in a chat you're not in. Different league. So Dan and I know each other's opinions on this, but AJ Green, Hall of Famer?
No.
Okay, you're with us.
No, I don't see him as a Hall of Famer. I mean, yeah, he had good years, but it was really like touchdown upside.
Hall of Very Good.
Yeah,
He'll be in the Bengals Ring of Honor. But
I can see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, he's the best receiver they've had.
Yeah,
since now I guess that's retired at least.
Yeah, he fell real. He didn't have the upper tier dominance. He fell a little short in some of those areas. Still a really good career, just not quite at the Hall of Fame level. But good for AJ Green. Never quite the same after missing all of 2019. Made a go out of it in Arizona. But big athletic bodies that rely on athleticism. They'll fall off at some point, and when they do, it falls off hard, and there's not a lot of floor there. Julio Jones is in the same boat.
Yeah,
so.
A lot of injuries throughout his career. Just never, he never was able to put together strain after strain after strain of seasons of dominance and getting those accolades too and stuff like that.
Yep. Cardinals are down to, now 2 head coaching finalists because they got stiffed by the third guy, Mike Kafka and Lou Anarumo. So 1 offensive, 1 defensive guy. They're not expected to announce until after the Super Bowl. So it'll be Kafka coming in, who is getting looks because of his work with Daniel Jones and the Giants last year, or defensive-minded guy. He did great with the Bengals defense. So both good options. We'll see. Carolina, the Panthers hired former Denver defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero as their DC. So this is awesome for Carolina. This is the opposite of what the Titans did, because this is a very enthusiastic hire to get excited about with how many pieces are on that Carolina defense, how good that defense has looked. You got Frank Reich coming in on the offensive side of the football. You've got some pieces in place. They're a couple pieces away on offense, but they could very easily be a winning team in the class of the NFC South.
They should be I think they'll be the favorites to enter. I think once we get Vegas lines, I think they'll be the favorites to win.
Good coaching infrastructure in place there, shaping up.
Yeah.
Good.
I guess it depends what they do at quarterback too. If they're gonna stick with Darnold, if they're gonna see what they got at Matt Corral,
bring in Jimmy Garoppolo and let him game manage the shit out of it.
They could, that it's also a direction they could go.
I mean, they've shown they can make some good through the run game. Bring in Jimmy, get somebody to complement DJ Moore. It doesn't have to be a high-end guy. It could be a tight end, could be a wide receiver. Just get yourself a second option, and you're in good shape if they can ride that defense. Brian Schottenheimer has been hired as Dallas's new offensive coordinator. Brian Schottenheimer, famous for running a lot more than he threw in Seattle. The antithesis of let Russ cook, which maybe, as we're seeing now, might have been for good reason.
A lot of Zeke, because now it sounds like Zeke wants to restructure his contract too.
Yeah, good amount of Pollard.
Franchise take. I didn't realize Dallas thought that this was 1999, not 2023.
Jerry Jones, man.
That
probably does still think it's 1999.
All the drugs.
Living in the prime.
I guess thank God they don't have any other real receiving option other than CeeDee Lamb, because not going to be a lot of volume in that type of offense.
No, but that's not saying that one receiver can't do it, right? I mean, we saw Doug Baldwin do it. We saw Tyler Lockett after that do it. So, I mean, there's value to be had there, especially, in how some of these concepts or pick your shots and stretch the field and whatever. Because we have seen productivity out of Seattle receivers. Also makes sense, I think, for Dak.
I hope he bounces back. But the way with this whole Schottenheimer signing is Mike McCarthy's still going to be one calling the call, making the plays, making the calls on the plays.
Oh, that's also true. And I don't know. That's a good point. And what is Schottenheimer's influence actually going to be here?
Yeah. So it's like with McCarthy making the calls, it's like, so what's Schottenheimer going to do? Do we like losing Kellen Moore? Like, does this offense take a step back? And is it more of a slower paced, or is it going to be something that's like shoot and go and make it more fast paced and side to side?
I don't know that it's going to get any more fast paced with either guy, regardless who has the influence there.
Looks like Garrett Wilson wins Rookie of the Year.
That's fair.
Sauce Gardner got Defensive Player of the Year Defensive Rookie of the Year over Aiden Hutchinson, so that's not fair.
Well, at least Jefferson won Offensive Player.
Did he?
Yeah, that was good.
So yeah. The rookies were kind of a mess. It was close.
You Coach of the Year announcements yet?
I haven't seen anything yet. I've seen Jefferson winning Offensive Player of the Year. Wilson winning Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, or Nick Bosa won Defensive Player of the Year. Like, Nick Bosa almost was the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. The voting was pretty insane. I'm sure at some point we will see.
Yeah, it hasn't
I don't think it's
yet.
come out yet. Yeah.
Assistant Coach of the Year was D'Amico Ryans. Sportsmanship not announced yet. Sack leader not there yet. That should be an easy one to figure out. No Fan of the Year yet. No Call of the Year yet. Ron Rivera gets salute to service.
You
I
got
whole
a
thing
question.
on FF face off.
What's that?
You got a question about the OC in Dallas change
Okay.
and what it does to CeeDee Lamb. What are you guys' thoughts on his dynasty value? His ADP, you think? I think Lamb's ADP is a second round.
I think it's.
No, he's a first round still.
I think it's
Is he
neutral.
first round still.
Yeah.
I think it's neutral. Like Ryan was saying, yes, Schottenheimer's run heavy.
Oh yeah,
McCarthy's calling the plays. McCarthy's still going to have a lot of influence on the offense. So how much of Schottenheimer's concepts and run-leaning style is going to get into that? But then also, when you look at the success that both guys have had out of wide receivers, especially their number one target getters. McCarthy, of course, with Devontae Adams, and before that, Jordy Nelson, and then Schottenheimer with the Seahawks, who were always placing either Lockett or Baldwin into the top 12. I think it's pretty neutral for CD. I don't think this swings things a whole lot for me on him, one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. I mean, right now, DLF has him as wide receiver 4 and the 4th overall in Dynasty as a, I guess single QB, but the fourth receiver. You really can't go much higher. Obviously, you won't surpass Chase or Jefferson. He should be in the tier with AJ Brown, so it's not. He can't rise much further. And as you guys mentioned, there's no way that he can drop much. There's not enough competition for him at this moment either way. For targets, Michael Gallup really was in the same post as injury. Dalton Schultz is it's a free agent at this moment. And they got really nothing out of Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah. Noah Brown was a 3 for a lot of the year.
Yeah, 2, yeah,
which is
whatever,
fine, but not a threat.
Yeah.
Brian Flores, who was a finalist for the Arizona coaching job, has been hired by the Vikings as their defensive coordinator.
Love this move.
They said, screw Arizona, screw your head coaching job. I'm going to go be a coordinator in Minnesota.
For one of the worst defenses.
I think it's a better opportunity for him to try to turn around another piss poor defense and let that be the resume that builds to a better head coaching job. I don't know if Arizona it's a desirable spot, and maybe maybe there's something with Kyler that just doesn't. I don't know.
Too many question marks. Like it feels like people are like, I don't know with the quarterback situation right now. Like, do you really want to
if it's
go backwards?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if it's. I mean, I wouldn't put it all on Kyler for sure. It might be ownership. It might be with the decisions that we don't know about that was made behind the scenes, how they handled the Kyler Murray contract situation with shit getting leaked and stuff like that. It's maybe that was a part of it, or Minnesota just offered a better pitch.
Comfort coming out of the interview process and things of that nature. Either way, it's a great get from Minnesota, who needs a defense turned around desperately.
Quick.
It can't get any worse than you are now.
Quick.
No.
You don't get worse than the worst.
Not on this offensive window they're in. It's like the exact opposite of what they were in 2018 after their improbable run.
Sean Desai interviewing for the Broncos defensive coordinator job, so that's another desirable position. He dropped out of the running for, I think it was Carolina's defensive coordinator position before they hired Ajero Avero. Or no, he's declined a second interview with somebody to focus on the Denver job. And there's a lot of synergy here. Desai was under Fangio when Fangio was the Bears defensive coordinator. He got a lot out of that defense, and he's probably going to be a hot head coaching candidate here in a couple of years and would inherit a lot of good pieces on that Denver side of the ball if he ends up with that gig. And he's been a hot name for D coordinator gigs. Understandably. So
yes.
All right. Quick, what's worst person in the NFL? Brett Favre suing Pat McAfee and Shannon Sharp for essentially what amounts to reporting on his welfare fraud, or Russell Wilson for only giving 23 cents on every dollar to charity through his charitable organization. Which is
I want to know
better-
just how many of
which
these
is-
just how many of these actual charities, like what the percentage breakdown is on
That's what I was going to say. That's
money given per dollar.
That's still better than Goodwill. That's still better than United Way. That's actually
they
not
don't give like
that
nothing, right?
that's actually not that uncommon for a 501c3 to, right, just not for profit. Doesn't mean people aren't getting paid. Just you can't make a profit. So they do some good, but 75 cents every dollar is going into the pockets of the people running it. And unfortunately, that way for a lot of places. Part of being a 501c3, this is my note to you, and I know this from dealing with a lot of different charities and stuff and some of my side hustles, if you will. If you're going to donate money to someone and you want to make sure it's going to good, 501c3s have to have their financials public. Go find them, go look, go see where that money's going before you make that donation. That's why I don't give to the United Way.
Fair point.
So we can agree, though, that Favre is the worst human being, right?
Oh yeah,
Favre is a pretty, yeah.
total dick move.
Just let him keep kind of destroying his character. That's fine. He'll eventually be on Fox News spouting dumb shit with other false profited, people, thinking they're bigger than the world.
All right. 1 hour on the clock. You guys ready to do draft?
Let's do this.
Beer Fueled Lookback.
All right, 2021 draft class. So we're going to start out by looking at the first round quarterbacks. So This was what we all thought to be a deep quarterback class, a lot of talent, some sure things. And it's been okay-ish. So the very top, 3 straight quarterbacks went: Lawrence, Wilson, Trey Lance. You also had Justin Fields and Mac Jones in that first round. So, let's first off today, let's dynasty rank those 5. Who's your favorite out of the bunch for dynasty? It's got to be between Fields and Lawrence, right?
Yeah, that is they're in their own tier.
Yes.
It's tough because I think it's like, do you want the more traditional pocket passer with some rushing upside, or do you want the potentially the next Lamar Jackson in hopes that the Bears actually develop him as a passer and build a scheme around him that can actually be successful, and he becomes somewhere where Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen are.
Right.
And that's just it right there. That's where you have it at, where I put Trevor Lawrence at number 1, because he already has everyone around him. He has Calvin Ridley coming into the system. He has a good system already in place. Like, he definitely showed why he was the number 1 pick here. Last year was a total fluke.
Complete throwaway with Meyer.
Yep, I got to look at that. This year, it started off a little rough, but as the second half got going, that's when he took off. That's when we saw that number 1 pick come out, and it showed. And I like him over Fields just because of there's nothing around Fields like there is around Lawrence right now.
Yeah, no, there's not. And Fields is going to get more done with his legs, and ultimately, I think could have more fantasy football upside. But I think Lawrence is definitely a little bit safer at the moment. I probably would have Fields just to tick ahead, just because of that athleticism, just because of that rushing floor. And we did see some brilliance in the passing game to where if they do put players around him, he's going to take off to a completely next level. But I don't disagree with anybody that has Lawrence ahead either.
No, I would put Fields ahead. I mean, it's my style of quarterback that I've liked. I love the rushing upside. Lawrence, we still need to see. I mean, both players we need to see, take the next step. Fields offers the insane rushing upside that Lawrence just doesn't have if the passing game isn't there, or they're just getting a below average performance. You can't get that type of floor. Fields' floor is insane. And both quarterbacks, at least right now, should be in line for a second contract with both of their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And from a longevity standpoint, there should be no concern from both of them. So they're both top 12, both top 10. I'd argue they're right around top 7, top 8. KTC feels the same. DLF feels the same. They're just like they were, coming out of high school. They're 1 and 2 in terms of where they're at, comparative. So they're right around each other, and they probably will be, as they should have been in the actual draft.
Yep.
At least in my opinion.
Fields going behind a bunch of offensive guys early. But yeah, I'm with you. So the next tier, well, not tier of ranked guys, but the next. So who's third? Is it Lance still? Is it Mac? Is it Wilson? I mean, because I think that these next 3 kind of fall into 2 groupings, where Mac Jones is just kind of and kind of had a throwaway year last year because of the complete offensive dysfunction of the Patriots. And Lance and Wilson, for completely different reasons, just haven't, 2 years into their careers, they haven't done anything to help their cause. Wilson because he's been bad, Lance because he just played like 2 football games because of injury. And came in
and that's just
raw.
it.
It's not Wilson.
No, I think it's got to be Lance next still, just because of the untapped upside and that it's injury related, not performance related.
I mean, it's tough because
it's just
I
easier to
almost
group
want
them
to
up
say,
in a bag.
Yeah, I think I still agree. I look at it with Dynasty, from the quarterback spot, the type of investment you have to make when you're playing super flex. You want to, feel pretty confident that they're going to be there for for as long as they can be. Mac has that, I think, that type of safetiness to him, but that's about it over Lance. Lance had the upside. Lance is in a better offense.
Better runner.
Sunk cost with the Niners. I don't see them moving on from Lance, even if Brock Purdy is fine. Come the start of camp, like the guy, the injury guys on fantasy Twitter, it's all the same. Brock probably won't be ready for OTAs and training camp, and he's going to be behind the 8 ball where Lance should be ready to go from the get-go.
Yeah. It's kind of where I'm at there too. And then you have to bet on Lance being ready to go from the get-go, winning that outright, and then performing, because he'll have a short leash if Purdy's sitting right behind him and he's not.
Yeah.
And ready to go.
Exactly.
With what Purdy showed.
No, exactly. Yeah. Like Lance has the highest upside here out of this group, but has also the most improved, because we already know Zach Wilson's going to sit for the year. They already said the Jets are going to keep him and just kind of bench
he could
him.
get traded. I mean, the Jets with the improvement of their defense and the insane amount of they're already the number one front runner to go after Rodgers. It makes sense. You have a young defense that's healthy and a great offensive skill players around him with getting Brees all back from injury. It just
Ryan's referencing a report from earlier today, though, out of the Jets camp that basically said that they don't plan to trade him. So, I mean, he's not speculating. There was actually a report earlier today that came out of the Jets beat writers that they don't plan to trade Wilson. They think he can still develop, and they plan to get a veteran to come in and see how he develops from being on the bench for a year or two, which tells me that they believe in the talent that's there, but they also believe that he wasn't ready and needs to get out of his own head and has some maturing to do and stuff. And that's not a vote of confidence long term for Zach Wilson, honestly.
No.
Maybe the whole New York area isn't for him. Maybe he needs to actually go to another team, get out of the state of New York, not the Jets, not the Giants, be somewhere else.
And that's not saying.
I mean, I made that point too, yeah.
And they will trade him for the right offer, I'm sure. But right now, it sounds like they're not actively trying to do that.
No.
Yeah, Mac Jones is just Mac Jones. He's safe. I don't see his upside being anything other than a mid-tier 2, but he's safe.
He's a game manager.
Yeah. He is a very fine QB2 and super flex on your roster that can kind of just not fuck you too much. The Patriots getting back Bill O'Brien at least ensures some confidence that the offense gets back to maybe rookie year offensive form. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they don't, they can invest in some of their receiving core instead of bringing in these wide receiver 3s to fill it out, or trading way too much for Devonta Parker.
Yeah. Who you buying, who you selling out of these 5 in Superflex?
Buy Lance.
Buy Lance and
just buy Lance.
Yeah.
There's enough people out there, especially with the Brock Purdy, especially with George Kittle coming out saying that Brock Purdy's the front runner. There's going to be more than enough people that are going to be like, oh man, I don't know.
I'm buying Lawrence, but I'm selling Lance still. I still don't. I mean, I see the upside and stuff, but I just don't.
That's where a lot of people are going to be on Lance. It's going to be one or the other, and that's going to be a divisive camp.
I'm on the other side.
I don't think any of these guys
I've been on the other side. No,
yeah,
I mean I was so like,
you've never I mean, I get it, Brian. You've never wavered on your take on Lance. So I mean, there's really nothing, and people really shouldn't, right? We haven't seen enough games from him, in either way. I've always been high on Lance. That's why he would be a buy in this point. If you were low on him, nothing of that should change with the 5 games he's played.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into positional, I'm looking at this, and I would just like to point out the top 12 in this draft actually did not turn out that bad. Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, Pitts, Chase, Waddle. So you went skill positions in this draft, the first 6 picks. And then Penei Sewell has been awesome. J.C. Horn's been great. Patrick Surtain has been really, really good. Devonta Smith, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons through the top 12. What a freaking top end of that class.
Yeah. It's been Also, Brian Dable, on Coach of the Year.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
Just announced,
Should have been. Good for him.
which is what our pick was. We got it right. Woo!
Hey. All right. It was actually a tight end that went next, so let's talk about Kyle Pitts here for a minute, and then as we stick it in the first round. So, what are you doing, right? You had an extremely slow start last year, almost no touchdown upside. Felt a completely dysfunctional offense this year where it didn't necessarily pan out for him, and then he got hurt. What do we like? Where are you at with Kyle Pitts right now? Obviously,
Don't sell him.
no.
Just
No. Hold.
he's a
You have to
hold.
hold.
Tight
He's
end's
a
tough
buy
position in
low
the
if you
league.
can get him for cheap. It's like he's selling an offense that's gonna yield a lot of target volumes to be him and Drake London. It's gonna be just a consolidation of targets going his way. We know just how talented he is. This is just a problem of getting a tight end that goes top 5.
Mhm.
People have these expectations of him
Right out of the gate.
in a
and-
bad Atlanta offense that just it's not shocking that he's off to a slowish start.
And right out of the gate, too. They have those expectations off of him, and you just can't. You just can't at the tight end position. It's a hard position to play. I think he's a huge buy right now. Because people are going to be down on that 2 years in. I think it's a huge buy at the moment. Ryan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you can get him, I'd take him.
Do you know who we're talking about?
Kyle Pitts.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure.
Just
No,
like
I-
Ryan's
no,
autopilot response. Yeah.
No, I was just looking
Beside taking.
at our draft results, and I was trying to look back at like where Kyle Pitts was going in most drafts. He was going top 5. I've seen him go as high as number 2. Like that was what I was looking at. So it's like you're looking at a top 5, top 2 pick. You're not going to trade him away for absolutely nothing because of the investment you made on him.
And you're not getting a lot for him. So
No, you'll be lucky to get an end of like pick 12
mhm.
in a draft.
Speaking
right
of
now.
this, let's play a little game of what trades has he gone for recently.
I like that game. It's a fun game.
Let's hope DLF can load up quicker than what it is. Yay for hotel Wi-Fi. All right, here we go. Perfect. Got 2-for-1 deal. Kyle Pitts or DJ Moore / David Njoku.
Probably Pitts. Close though.
That's actually a good trade there
I think it is a good trade,
because you get DJ Moore.
which is another like consistent yet probably a polarizing thing. And Njoku came out hot last year, and then things faded down the stretch. I'm probably on the Pitts side of that, but barely. Pretty good trade.
Yeah, it's pretty even. I like it.
All right. This is 2-for-1 involving Pitts on the second side. Yeah, Pitts and Rashad Bateman or TJ Hawkinson. This is an easy
It's Pitts and
Depends
Bateman.
how-
Pitts and Bateman
It's
side.
Pitts and
like,
Bateman for me.
Yeah,
Hawkins.
but it also depends on how high on Hawkinson after having like constant 10 target games.
Well, until Minnesota actually wants to invest into the wide receiver 2 spot. I mean, Hawk should be top 3 in Dynasty with Andrews and Pitts. So
yeah, and he'll be a top 2 or 3, but you're getting somebody else that is also that, and then you're getting Bateman on top of it. So
I mean, I also get why this trade's made.
me too.
Hawk's going to provide you the production right away. He's coming into his prime, and we know his role in Minnesota is not going to be he's not going to block as much. Irv Smith will be gone. Pitts and Bateman both haven't proved anything yet. We know the volume is going to be there for both when they're healthy. Both offenses are in this weird spot. We don't know what Baltimore's offensive situation is even going to look like. They don't have an OC yet. They haven't re-signed Jackson, but we know the upside is there for both Bateman and Pitts. So, I mean, I get why you would make this move, especially if you're a team that's looking to build for a championship. I just don't. Why make it now? Where
Yeah.
where Hawkinson's value is the highest it's probably ever been. Why not make this move post-draft? And Minnesota does decide to go after a wide receiver early again, which is there's been rumors around. What if they re-sign Irv Smith? Like, there are many ways to get a lower valued Hawk where I don't see his value jumping any higher unless Minnesota completely disregards the wide receiver spot, which could happen. There's also a really good free agent class for wide receiver twos. There's no high upside ones or alphas in it, which is why people are down on it. But this is a good spot to find a complimentary receiver for a team like Minnesota. Why are you trading for Hawk when he's at his highest and value this early in the Dynasty offseason?
All right.
Well, plus they're looking at releasing Adam Thielen too, right? Because I think Adam Thielen came out today saying something about
They're working through some things.
That was so diplomatic of him. He's like, "Oh, I would love to retire." Like, you're going to retire a Viking, even if you played somewhere else. So it's on a 1-day contract, retire Viking. Like, it's okay, bud. Like, we all love you here. Like, no one dislikes you. We also know that you're 32 years old, off of multiple injured seasons, and you're not the same player. It's a business.
It is a business. All right. Rolling through the receivers. So deep receiver class, and we're going to start up the first three. So you got the first three guys off the board were hotly debated, and quite honestly, all of them have double-digit touchdowns. All of them up over 2,000 yards for their career so far. But Jamar Chase is heads and tails the best of the three. But Chase, Waddle, Smith. I think that's just pretty fair to say you're in a really good position with all three guys.
Yeah, especially Smith. He really took that step up this year.
Yeah, he did.
Like, where Philadelphia actually has two wide receiver ones now instead of Smith trying to play the wide receiver one by himself. He's actually able to be that number two, but it was really like it's like a dual alpha system they have there.
And all
it's
that,
almost like being put into his more natural spot. It's going to be beneficial to him.
Yeah,
entirely.
And all of that fear about Waddle getting once Hill got signed, not coming to fruition at all. Waddle was fantastic this year, and Chase just continues to be fantastic. So it's not you're not moving any of these guys. You're not buying them at a value. Those three have just been absolutely fantastic.
I just love Waddle's jump in his yards per reception, which I'm sure his ADOT's also extremely like he nearly doubled. He nearly doubled.
Well, and that's what we were saying at the beginning of the season, right? That was what we called out, was that the ADOT was super low, and that the way that they used him in his rookie year was really close to the line of scrimmage, and that if his ADOT just came to league average, that he was going to be fantastic.
And
I just hope they don't lose Tua. I hope Tua doesn't retire or nothing after all those concussions, because there's a reason why Waddle should be considered a top 10 wide receiver.
Everything that's been said and been seen is that Tua's playing football still, and he's cleared. So.
Yeah. Yep.
He is cleared. All right. Keeping with the wide receivers. You had a little bit, and then you got into some not great stuff here with Kadarius Toney. So rounding out the wide receivers in the first round after that run early on, you ended up with Kadarius Toney to the Giants at pick 20. He's now on his second team. Rashad Bateman has not been able to stay on the field, and Baltimore has taken no steps forward in the passing game. So anything on those two, either of them? I think Bateman's probably a buy. Toney is going to be more of a pick him up off the scrap heap if he ever does anything.
I'd pick Toney up right now. I like Toney a lot.
I like Toney a lot
after he has a big
big
Super Bowl.
I liked him a lot going.
I would
into
like
this
Toney
year,
if he can actually get on the field, stay on the
stay
field,
healthy,
and command
not be
production.
hurt.
Yeah.
The dude that he's another gadget player. Like, I mean, yes, I was never on Toney to begin with. Easy sell after he has a strong game in the Super Bowl. He just doesn't command anything.
Yep.
And he can't get on the field.
I was not on Toney to begin with, and then he ended up being the best receiver on the Giants in limited work last season. So saw some like, okay, it could be, and then was hurt this season. It's just like, all right. I still think there's definitely some traits and some could be there, but he's going to be a gadget player. I don't think he has one upside on your team. He's not somebody that I want to give up capital to get. So he's either, pieced with somebody else as part of a deal where I just need like a sweetener instead of a third or fourth round pick, or he's going to be picked up off the scrap heap. Bateman's a more interesting one, but he hasn't seen the field either, so he's probably more of a hold or a buy low for me.
Yeah. There are rumors the Ravens are going to they're going to interview Chiefs OC.
The enemy?
Yeah, which is insane because that would obviously completely change, the mindset of what the Ravens offense
they're working
would
with
ever look like.
Todd Monken right now, too, I think, who was responsible for Jameis and for Georgia. So
it's something to keep not Jameis, but Jamar Jackson in town. Lamar Jackson. God damn, I can't even speak right now. Yeah. We're getting all these names confused right now. Like all jumbling together. Every time I hear it, I start picking it up. I'm like, damn it, no, not that one.
So Kenneth Walker had more first place votes than Garrett Wilson, but because of them counting second and third place votes as well, that's how Wilson got it.
Yeah, Walker had one more first place vote, but Wilson had like 8 or 9 more second place votes than Walker.
Yep.
Which I agree with how they do that. It shouldn't just be.
I do too. It shouldn't just be who gets your first place vote. All right, that's it for the wide receivers and the running back side. Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, 2 players seemingly after this year headed in different directions.
Yeah, like I wasn't on Najee Harris going into the season just because of the whole foot injury and
all volume.
Yeah, I think he what was it? I think he has almost like 600 touches already between the first 2 years. If I'm right.
If there's ever a running back that we want to predict is going to get hurt, which I hate to say,
700.
Follow the breadcrumbs.
700
running backs are massively overused.
Yeah,
even dating back to college.
579 carries and 115 receptions. He's 695, so 700 round up.
And they brought back Man Canada, so that offense is already going to look like shit again.
And they don't have an offensive line still, which they need offensive linemen.
He'd
be inefficient.
Do you guys? So right now, DLF has him as the RB 16,
okay,
and then KTC has him as the RB. Right now, on at least with KTC, which is obviously more of a swing in people's minds, he's RB 11. So back in 1 or in mid 2.
It's all volume on that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's all volume.
It's all going to be volume, and you worry about injury at that point because he was used heavy in college too.
And he wasn't efficient. Obviously, more volume typically leads to less efficiency stats. He was a product of an insane offensive line, an insane offense with Bam. I don't think Najee's a bad player by any means. Should have never been taken first round. But as you guys said, he's a product of the volume and unless the Steelers' offense improves and there's touchdown upside, no.
Yeah, and ETN's the other way around. As the Jags' offense improves, the only thing you really need to add into his repertoire is the touchdowns. He, after a slow start coming off the injury, ended up with 1,400 scrimmage yards this year, 1,000 on the ground on 220 carries, which is a good number of carries, 35 receptions. So, ETN, as that offense gets better, is going to get better. I don't think he's at his ceiling yet. If you're going to buy, it's not going to be cheap, but now's the chance. He's definitely more of a hold, but I think ETN's trending up, actually.
Oh, big time. Yeah, with the whole offensive way Lawrence is trending up with it, he's going up with it.
So, RB6 and DLF.
Good.
RB5 and KTC.
Fair.
Obviously, I've always been a big fan. We expected a slow start post ACL injury, new offense. Yeah. Now he's going to be year 2 Doug Peterson. Looking at some trades here. He was part of a 1-for-3. So it was Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and a 23 first. Obviously, we don't know what that is for ETN, which I would expect.
That's pretty good.
Would be his cost. I would honestly move any other 23 pick to try to get ETN right after Bijan's gone. There's been enough hype on these guys, behind Bijan right now. You can probably get ETN even at a discount in your rookie drafts where those picks are worth the most.
Yeah. All right. Not really anything else on the fourth round. There's some guys that went or on the first round. Sorry. There's a bunch of defensive guys up there. Some good, some not so good. Let's hit a beer review, and then we'll get second round and the rest of the draft.
Beer review.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start so I can do my normal pour myself a second beer. This held the apple really well, and I'm really surprised by that for being 2 years old. I mean, I know it was in a can, but it held the apple really well. The cinnamon has come off of it a little bit if you're going for an Apple Jacks type of thing, but it's still nice and tart. It still drinks really easy. It's still pretty refreshing. I'm pleasantly surprised at how well that it held that fruit. So again, good beer. Kind of nailed what they're trying to do. It's not overly sour, but because it is a sour, I can probably only drink one or two of them in a sitting. But flavor's right on, even at 2 years old.
I want to know how many pounds of apples were used.
Or if it was even real apple.
I have to imagine it was a shit ton for it to be held up. I mean, obviously this cinnamon, falling off isn't shocking at all. Spices are typically one of the first to go.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably, like you said, probably a shitload.
That's it has to be. Otherwise, it would have gone. Especially because you kept it. Did you keep it on the shelf or did you keep it in the fridge?
It was in the fridge.
I mean, that probably helped.
I also didn't have it for 2 years, though. So, I mean, it was probably on the shelf for 9 months before I bought it because I know I haven't had it for 2 years.
That's that too. I'll go quick here. Again, Guinness straw. This is the NA Guinness straw. There's literally no difference to this. It tastes just like a Guinness, which is amazing because this is what you really want to go for when you're doing NA options of craft beer. You want to try to represent the style as best as possible without losing any flavor to it. For those of you that are looking to, to supplement or change your drinking habits, and you want to keep drinking, keep drinking, craft beer, there isn't a better time to get into drinking NA craft and the amount of high quality products that are being put out, and the fact that you can replicate a Guinness to perfection, obviously from the company that makes it, is pretty remarkable. So if you see it, this is the first time I saw it out here. I haven't seen something like this, and where I live, around where Hopper is as well. I mean, I'm out in KC, so maybe that's a little different. Maybe it hasn't hit the Illinois side, which would be a little shocking. But if you love Guinness and you're looking for an alternative to Guinness in terms of alcohol, just if you find this, pick it up. It's very, very good.
It's pretty amazing how these NA beers have become like better tasting beers that aren't really alcoholic. It's just like, I was there with my first time trying one. I'm like, actually, this isn't bad at all. I was thinking it's being more like watered down, but the flavor, I mean, it's just like a beer without the alcohol.
I mean, all they're doing is just boiling out all the fermentable sugars, like all the things that create alcohol. Hops don't add any alcohol at all, and you're just not losing your profile. And because of those, because of more and more craft breweries that are going this route, you're just going to become better. You're going to have just better representations of it, and you're going to see it more and more too out in the markets, out at bars, I wouldn't be shocked. Sporting events would be, I promise you, in the near future, you're going to see more sporting events and, concerts alike to try to help prevent people over drinking and getting hammered and doing something fucking stupid. These are the best alternatives. Like, here, drink craft beer, but don't get fucked up, and make stupid decisions.
Like seeing it on tap at a bar will be.
It won't be on draft.
It won't be on draft.
The problem with doing NA on draft is you have to be completely perfect with cleaning your lines. Anything that gets in those lines, anything from the past, or any like if you don't clean them properly, you can create alcohol.
And most bars are not perfect with that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then if someone gets someone gets an NA beer, like let's say a woman's pregnant and gets one and it's not an NA anymore,
you're lawsuit heavy. Yeah,
you're fucked. Yeah.
so unless you're gonna dedicate a tap system to just NA, don't do it.
Yeah. Or just go to, you'll see more and more
They'll come up packaged
NA only craft breweries too. You'll see more just specific craft breweries that do NA, and that part will be fine because
there's also a lot of dry bars coming out too that will just specialize in mocktails and NA beers and stuff. So
yeah, there's a market.
There it is. Ryan, did you go yet?
No, I did not. We were too busy talking about NAs. I had Sheboygan Brewing's Blueberry Ale, which is out of Sheboygan, Michigan. Here it comes in at 5.6%. 14 IBUs, and definitely a nice blueberry hint to it. Like I liked it a lot. I had one a couple days ago out of the can. I didn't like it that much because I just cracked it open and had it, and I was like, this doesn't taste right. And then doing it in the glass definitely tastes better. It's you taste it as soon as it hits the lips. It's right on your tongue. It's blueberry. You swallow, it's blueberry. You have the nice blueberry aftertaste. And it actually holds a good aftertaste. It's not like one that like fades where it's like nasty. So, and it's really nice and light, being a cream ale.
Good. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get into the second round. So, second round was not very heavy on skill players. With the way the draft started out, a lot of guys going early. There wasn't a lot of slippage. So, we'll start with the wide receivers. So really, you had 4 wide receivers go. 4. You had 4 wide receivers go in the second round. You had Elijah Moore going early.
5.
5?
Yeah.
Elijah, Rondale, Eskridge. Yeah, 5. So you had Elijah Moore going to the Jets is the first guy. You had Rondale Moore going to Arizona, a little over halfway through the round. And then Dwayne Eskridge to Seattle, Tutu Atwell to the Rams, and Terrace Marshall to the Panthers. Anything out of those guys? I think Marshall and Marshall, Rondale Moore, and Elijah Moore, the 3 that I think have value that we can discuss.
Yeah, and look at him the value as that too, like 1, 2, 3. Like I feel like Elijah Moore out of the 3 of them has the least amount of value right now, based on how he performed this year compared to how he did his rookie season, where he actually did really good.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson coming in definitely did hurt Elijah Moore, as did some of the dysfunction of the offense. He was not able to put it together the same way he was in his rookie season. Dan, you're the Elijah Moore truther among us.
Yeah, I fully expect Moore to be involved in any trade that involves Aaron Rodgers, which is what I'm predicting. If he does stay there and the Jets to improve their quarterback position, scream by. In the very limited time that he had without Zach Wilson and not dealing with the off the field stuff, the stuff with the coaching staff, there's still production. You don't have that good of a first year and just fall off the face of the earth. Maturity issues aside, he's still going to grow. This is still a very ascending offense and a very good offensive division and an excellent offensive conference. The Jets are going to take step forwards. It's going to involve in getting production, not just from Zach Wilson, but from Elijah Moore as well. I don't know what the contract situation is like with Corey Davis. I don't see the Jets
out on him after this year or this year even.
I don't see the Jets going after. That's not a super position of weakness at this point.
Well, it's also not a really deep wide receiver.
It's not deep as well.
Free agent class or draft. So
Yeah, I mean, if they decide to go after one of these, decent number 2 receivers in free agency, that's going to spill some water on Moore. I would still be looking to buy low if you believe in the talent, which I do. I definitely would.
Corey Davis is 100% getting cut. The out is this offseason. They save a lot.
What is their?
There'd be $600,000 in dead cap to cut him, and they would save over $10 million.
What is their salary situation though? I mean, would it matter to them? I don't think anybody's coming. There isn't any big name players that they'll be looking to extending right now where they're trying to save money.
Yeah, as of right now, they're $3 million over the cap.
Oh, 3. Okay.
They saved $10 million by cutting Corey Davis with only $600K in dead cap.
I mean, I guess if they feel like they can improve that much on him, he's not going to cost a lot. I mean, they can definitely save enough. So, I mean, obviously, if he'd probably be one of their first looks if the Jets are looking to open up salary for whoever the fuck ever, especially for someone like Rodgers, in which they'll have to front up a bunch of money for, then yes.
Yeah.
And this is also why you wanted to try to get, Elijah Moore. The Jets are in the market to improve the QB position. Like that's only good for Elijah Moore, unless he's not. If he's involved in the trade, then you're fucked. But if he's not, then
yeah, I don't see it getting much worse for him.
No.
Rondale Moore, the guy going the other direction, had a really down rookie season. Then we saw that wide receiver 2 position in Arizona, whether it was Dortch or Rondale Moore, pay some serious dividend.
But it looked like it benefited Dortch more than it did Rondale Moore.
It depends who their quarterback was, right? Because Dortch was, I mean, number 2 guy or number 2 on the, what the hell am I looking for? He was probably playing a lot of times with Colt McCoy.
4, 5, 6, 7,
starter last year.
Rondale Moore was also hurt the first part of this season too, and when he came back, Dortch fell off. I know because I had Dortch in a lot of places. And Moore was definitely ahead of him in the pecking order, and they both kind of produced at about the same clip in that position.
Yeah, and he had 3 games with over 10 targets.
Yeah,
and 5 with over 8 plus. So
95 targets.
I want to see what the Cardinals do, the wide receiver spot. Obviously, AJ getting retired. There's already a bunch of rumors about Hopkins being traded. Kyler I'm assuming he'll be ready at a clean ACL tear. So, he should be back before week 1, back before even preseason potentially. Moore isn't a number 1. There might be some value into him being viewed that way once they trade Hopkins. In that meantime, and there's no wide receiver 1 in this draft class, which we've constantly talked about. And
Moore doesn't profile for me as a 1 though. At least not outside. So I don't want him to be the 1.
Yeah, as a complimentary piece. Well, he got Marquise Brown. Brown would be the the 1 there. If Hopkins gone now.
I forgot about
we all forgot about it.
Oh my god!
Like, wait a minute.
I like that because you get into.
That makes you feel a lot better.
Run it a little bit more wide open too, with Murray's mobility and Brown and Rondale Moore. You can do a lot of things with that, I think. So
yeah, it looks better now. Yeah,
also, no head coach yet either.
Yeah. Well, we know who the finalists are. If it's Kafka,
true.
That
very true.
Also gets a little interesting at how creative he can with those pieces. So,
Rondale Moore is also cheap. If you like Moore, you're going to get him at a discount.
Yeah, it's not a terrible get. I wouldn't call it a buy necessarily because I don't know that you get a lot more upside than what he has. It's just a nice piece to have.
Mm-hmm.
Terrace Marshall showed flashes this season. I think with him, we just really need to see what Carolina does. We know that they have room for a 2, that they have room for a wide receiver to step up. No idea what the quarterback situation is going to look like. Should be an improved offensive situation, though, from a coaching standpoint for him. So he's another one that, with the way he flashed last year and his size, you could make a case to make a buy on Terrace Marshall, especially because he should still be pretty cheap.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of ROI to be had there without a lot of risk.
Yeah, what are some trades that we've seen for Terrence Marshall right now?
Probably
Let's pull it up here. So DLF has him at wide receiver,
This
69.
nice.
So nice.
Does DLF have an injury for ham sandwiches and Doritos? Because that's
pretty much waiver wire. Like he's basically
Yeah.
waiver
I mean,
wire.
that's what I would expect his value to be. There's going to be truthers that are going to be buying into him. Some of those flashy games he had, is going to help with that. There's fad money being had here.
See, I told you. Doritos and cheese sandwiches.
You really can't get an idea of what. So here's the one. So it's a 23 third and $100 in blind bidding dollars.
There you go.
That's what Terrace, which is basically
sure. And
he's a waiver wire pick.
Man, you know what?
Try to get him for a third or fourth round. If you really want him, there's no interest for me. I can totally see him getting replaced either free agency or the draft.
I could too. I'm just targeting it as there's some ROI to be had there with little risk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean he's again, it's as you guys said, there's zero risk into moving him. You're not giving up any capital. Right. You're not spending what it costs to draft him in his rookie draft.
Right.
You can now get him for a fourth. I picked him up in places for free last year. So there is ROI right now. I can net a third round pick probably for him. Like after picking him up off waivers.
Yeah, so it's easy. So it's an automatic upgrade for you no matter what.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about Atwell or Askeridge, right?
No, they're both the same. They're doing nothing.
Yeah, not great.
Same player.
Not great things there. There was one running back in this round. It was Javonte Williams, who stock went way up, and then the ACL tear, and now you're just kind of waiting. I don't got a lot of.
We talked about him in the sell video a few weeks back. We're all agree he's a sell, right?
Yeah.
Still,
yeah. Because you can sell him for a lot still. Because people think like he's actually going to be something big, that big running back that we all wanted him to be last year before towards ACL.
Yeah.
This is immediate content. I'm going to pull up recent trades. I don't know if we did this when we had this sell episode.
You didn't.
Okay. So DLF has him as RB14, which I think is I'm surprised he's outside the top 12. I figured he'd still be in that range. Oh, Jesus Christ. Come on. All right. So recent trades for him. Javonte Williams in a second round in 2 seconds for a 23 first. I would presume that's a high 23 first.
I would deal with that type of move.
Yeah. That seems like
all right, here's one I think that'll irk Ryan. This is a Jameson Williams in a 23 first for Gainwell and Javonte Williams. And then a 23 third. So basically you're basically Williams and a 23 first for Javonte.
That seems like an overpay.
That is I mean
overpay.
It's
giving up on Jameson Williams right now is the dumbest move you can do. So if someone offered me that trade and I was getting the Jameson Williams, I'd be doing it in a heartbeat. Yep, here you go.
Well, I know you would.
Javonte is yours.
Well, and everybody loves
you're also irrationally high on I'm just joking.
I am rationally high on him.
Everybody loves Javonte Williams, but 250.
I have my concerns.
Yeah, and yep, me too. We'll just leave it at that.
KTC has Javonte as the RB9, so 5 spot difference. I think that's fine.
Probably more fair.
Yeah.
I think there's a good amount of between the tackles upside. I think you're a lot of times going to have to compliment him with the receiving back, even though he's shown he can do it. He's big enough to operate around the goal line if you can get, and he's going to be in what should be an improved offense. That could go way up from this year, but you're obviously not getting a discount on him because people still believe and people moved him the year before. and didn't
And
get
plus, looking
any
at Sean
benefits
Payton
out of it.
offense too.
Yeah.
Like the way Sean Payton uses his running backs. That's another way people are over viewing them.
He's not Alvin Kamara, but I
No.
promise you right now
It
at
might
this
be
point
Mark
next
Ingram
year.
though. So.
Yeah, true. I promise you right now at this point next year he will be a buy.
I think he might be a sell at this point next year.
I think
We'll see.
mainly more so he's going to be, I think, at his lowest once people realize that he's not going to contribute at all to majority of the fantasy season, his value is going to dip.
Yeah. What did I just miss? I'm sorry.
I said at this point next year that Javonte Williams will be a buy for me. I'm already falling it. Yeah.
You think his value is going to go start dropping low enough where
when he doesn't? I think people are buying in the thought that he'll be ready at the start of the season, and he won't be. Look at J.K. Dobbins. His timeline from his injuries are very, very. He
didn't really look himself until the last 4 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he had to battle through his own, post ACL injury. They both of them had, the ACL plus. Javonte's happened in season where Dobbins was, I think, week 1 or week 2 or week 3 of preseason. So he's not going to be ready until mid-season at best, and you're going to have that lull period in between of him getting back up to speed and trusting himself and making those cuts. He may not contribute at all to your fantasy team next year, and that's where the buy opportunity comes. Sure. Entering his final year of his contract, there is and there's going to be, I think, a lot of positive points, but you're also going to see a lot of people saying buy it. Like I promise you too, there's going to be articles all over the place saying buy Javonte Williams now. Blah blah this, blah blah that.
Yep. All right, quarterback and tight end out of this one. There's one tight end, one quarterback in the second round. The tight end was Pat Freiermuth. Nice piece. Don't see him having a huge amount of upside. Should float around the mid-tier tight ends. It's not a buy. It's not a sell. If you got him, congratulations. You don't have to think too much.
Yeah, he
is a tight end 1.
Yeah,
he's a top 12 tight end because he'll stay healthy.
Yep.
That's all he is.
And then the quarterback was Kyle Trask, who I don't think any of us. He might start. I don't think any of us have a lot of faith in him.
No,
oh, God, no, he's terrible. But he should be rostered. You should roster him because right now he is a penciled in starter.
You couldn't even start with Blaine Gabbert.
Yep. All right.
I know.
Third round, and then we'll get to the rest. Third round of this started off with, let's see, you had 2 quarterbacks in the third round. Yeah, 2 quarterbacks right at the beginning, and Kellen Mond and Davis Mills. Not a lot to say there. Mond hasn't done anything. Davis Mills is set to be replaced. We got more out of him than any of us thought we would, but
we got the most out of him than we thought we'd get out of any of these quarterbacks that went in the second and third round.
Dude, this round is fucking brutal.
This round is brutal.
It's like there's
nothing.
Mills is the only person to talk about.
Yeah,
Josh Palmer.
We can talk Josh Palmer a little bit, but yeah, Amari Rodgers, nothing. Nico Collins, nothing. Anthony Schwartz, flashed some big playability, but really nothing.
He's nothing.
Josh Palmer has given you some big games. Mike Williams ain't it. I don't think he's a buy. I don't think he's a sell. I think that when you're making your cuts, consider holding him because he has shown some upside. Nothing you're super incredibly excited about, but he has shown some upside.
I mean, him and Nico Collins are in the same position. There maybe be some open opportunity. At least at this point, Nico is a penciled-in starter, and no one else ahead of him.
Nico hasn't had the production to this point that Palmer has, though, either. So, where's offense? It just is what it is. I've never been a believer.
Has Palmer been more productive?
I don't know. 105 receptions, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns for Palmer. For Nico, it's 70, 927, and 3. So, not quite the target volume, not quite the receiving volume.
He was productive. I didn't realize Palmer was productive last year.
Yeah, he was.
That was due to Mike Williams going out.
Yeah, Mike Williams not being able to stay on the field led to a lot of that. So Palmer had an opportunity and he took it, basically in an uninspiring passing game. Uninspiring because
they're still outside of touchdowns. Outside of touchdowns, they're no. I don't care about either.
I really don't either. Palmer's a better piece to hold around. They'll probably be back into bench guys. Running back wise, it was Trey Sermon, and that's it.
Moving on, day 3.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Trey Sermon's already on a different team, so it doesn't matter.
All right, let's go look at day 3. Highlighted by some good running backs going in the 4th round, actually. Some guys that we are going to end up talking about. So 4th round is actually where you started to pick up some value. For whatever reason, these teams shit the bed in the 2nd and the 3rd round. Then we got to the 4th round, and we're like, all right, cool, we're going to make some good picks again. So running backs, you get Michael Carter, Ramondre Stevenson, Chuba Hubbard out of this round. And Kene Wanwu, who's a good return guy. So
I see his value bump next year with potential change at running back in Minnesota.
Well, and I like Wanwu for his explosive ability. He's always been an intriguing piece for me, and he should be free. So if I have roster space, I'm definitely rostering that just for that reason, because he should be free. He's got a lot of explosive playmaking ability. Michael Carter lost some value and then got it back and then lost it again, and he's going to be a guy, I think, that perpetually has some receiving upside as a flex play and is one injury away. But with Breece Hall there, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with Michael Carter.
He's
like my version of Dameon Pierce right now. Just looking at Michael Carter, I just see Dameon Pierce the same exact way.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like how so?
Like how so?
Like as he'll get replaced.
Yeah, like he's only a 4th round
Pierce
pick.
is a starter at least.
Yeah, but Pierce wasn't like he couldn't handle he wasn't like the most efficient type of running back with his carries and stuff, or anytime he had the ball in his hands. That's what kind of killed him. But I mean, that's
value Najee Harris.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. I like that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't disagree. It was just funny because I wouldn't have expected you to go to Dameon Pierce. There couldn't be two different players. I can see, Pierce getting, fucked the way that Carter did with a high value pick and going to Houston.
That's how I look at it.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it as.
Okay.
It's like that. The 4th round pick, the day 3 pick.
It'd be like that sometimes. Ramondre Stevenson is probably the crown jewel of this one. He is easily the Patriots' top back and had a hell of a good season. They're still going to run the football. He's still going to be heavily involved. I think that you can make an argument at this point for him over Najee.
I mean, DLF has him over Najee, and KCC has him back-to-back RB11, RB12.
Yeah,
and I would agree. You're gonna have two productive years with him, and then he'll get replaced. This is what New England does. They draft your replacements, and they already have 2 in the waiting for him. Unless they draft one this year, you're gonna have 2 quality years of Ramondre Stevenson. He should be a buy, hands down right now.
Yep. And Chuba Hubbard also, I believe he's currently the penciled-in starter for Carolina, right?
He's only one. I think
Foreman.
he's
because Foreman was
Foreman's
on
on
a
under
deal.
contract. So
Yeah. So Hubbard's penciled in as a starter. Him and Foreman both looked okay when they had their opportunities. So keep an eye on what Carolina does. You're not buying Hubbard, but hold it and watch.
Yeah.
But
I mean, expect him to probably get replaced, but as of right now,
he's the guy.
he'll
In
probably
worst
be
case,
one
he's
injury
gonna be
away
one
guy
injury
like he was
away.
last year. Yeah.
Yep. Or one trade away, I guess.
You're one injury away.
Wide receiver wise, there was not a lot to look at in the 4th round other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's been.
I was gonna say, I mean, let's
The
not
steal right
let's not
there.
overlook the Sun guy.
I'm not overlooking St. Brown. It was everybody else. The other guys in this rounds were Des Fitzpatrick went ahead of him. And then behind him, Jalen Darden, Tylan Wallace, Jacob Harris.
God, can you imagine if
Yeah, that's
Baltimore
who I'm
would
seeing.
have if Baltimore would have actually drafted Amon-Ra?
Or Tennessee instead of Des Fitzpatrick.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He should have never went day 3.
No.
I know this was a product of the COVID years and the ever expanding draft class that it has because of all the rules that were in place, but St. Brown should have never been It was a travesty that he went day 3 and had to ruin models and everything else because
He should have been higher. And he's been fantastic. You're not getting any value on him, and he's got a profile that could last a while. So just like ride that.
and he's on an ascending offense. And
Yep.
Detroit drafting a wide receiver that won't be a true number 1 makes it even better. Like St. Brown is in line to be a massive target hog. And I don't see Jameson Williams changing that whatsoever. No matter what Ryan says.
Dan saying inflammatory things.
I like Jameson Williams.
If it means I get Amon-Ra cheaper, then I love Jameson Williams.
Oh no, you're paying more for Amon-Ra than you are Jameson Williams.
I mean,
right
you are
now.
absolutely, but I mean, right now DLF has him as the wide receiver 7, which I think is about as perfect as you can get for that.
Colin Granson's the tight end that went. Ian Book is the quarterback that went in this round. I think that's it for 4. On to round 5. We don't need to talk about Luke Farrell. Really don't need to talk about Brevin Jordan either. The first useful fantasy asset that went in round 5 was Evan McPherson.
That's a good little back-to-back picks there, McPherson and Gainwell. Look at that.
Yeah. McPherson and Gainwell. Gainwell we do got to talk about for a little bit. You mentioned, kind of alluded to this earlier, where he's been involved in a boatload of trades, and the reason for that is because Sanders is headed to free agency. So,
And he's the one I struggle with the most, on whether or not he's going to go back to Philly or not. I'm really wondering what his market's going to look like.
yeah.
Which is going to be a big bump to Gainwell, even though Gainwell doesn't profile as a workhorse.
No, and he hasn't
His
really
odd
been-
usage in the red zone speaks
Yeah.
other
Yeah, he's
volumes. So
How big is he? He's like,
He's not.
he's up to
5'9".
200. He's like 5'9",
5'9".
200 now.
yeah, you nailed it, like right on the dot.
For his career,
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
5'9".
Yeah.
56 receptions, 400 yards, and a touchdown. Has yet to crack 1,000 scrimmage yards in his career. So,
But guaranteed a touchdown every time against the Giants.
yeah, 9
He's
rush
the new
touchdowns.
Boston Scott against
So-
them.
He'll profile as an ancillary piece for most of it, which is fine at this point, but
He's always going to be a really good, late round, pass catching back that can provide you some value, during bye weeks.
right, that's in like a rotational position basically.
Yeah. And I guess we'll see what Philly does with Sanders, but
Yeah.
the Nick Sirianni, what we've seen from that offense since he's taken over, I don't know if there's a running back to have there unless they go balls to the wall and take Bijan.
Miles Sanders.
I just
had
don't see
himself a
them.
good
I just
year.
don't see them doing that either.
Miles Sanders had himself a good year.
He did.
Credit where
The
credit's due.
touchdowns came back, and the touchdown variance was, it overcorrected. It's great.
Wide receivers, there's nothing here. Amir Smith-Marset, I don't care about.
Dead.
Simi Fehoko, I don't care about. Cornell Powell, I forgot existed.
Most
think
of
we all
these
did.
names.
Yep.
Do you see
Is
that?
there
Do
a
you see that?
usable?
You see in the
there
5th
is.
round that the Jets also drafted Michael Carter, the safety,
Yeah.
Yes.
out of Duke. So they drafted Michael Carter twice.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow.
Okay, not funny.
I think Ryan was like, wait a minute, I got these guys. They're going to be like, oh my God.
They're like, oh my god, you're so good. That's so funny. Oh,
Just go to round 6 where there's at least one useful name there.
Frank Darby?
I mean, not a wide receiver. I don't think there's a wide receiver with any.
Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
I said wide receiver.
Yeah, looking at wide receivers, it was Darby, Marquez Stevenson, Chai Smith, Racy McMath, Jalen Camp,
Ben Skoranek, 7th round.
Daz
There's a name.
Newsome, Ben Skoranek. There we go. Haven't said that in a little bit. Seth Williams, no, nothing there.
No.
Chris Evans hasn't been anything Roundtree. Elijah Mitchell is probably the only guy in this round to talk.
There's only other
No, Khalil
only
Herbert.
guy left to talk about.
Khalil Herbert's here too. We're gonna
Oh,
talk
yes,
Herbert
yes.
for a little bit. So let's talk Mitchell and Herbert real quick. We don't know what that's going to look. Elijah Mitchell has been super productive when he's been healthy, which hasn't been all the time. We don't know what that's going to look like with CMC, and it's likely not going to look like a lot of volume for Elijah Mitchell going.
You want both.
Yeah.
Given the Niners' tendency to max use their running backs that get hurt. Obviously, McCaffrey is a different animal.
I mean, it could be a 50-50 split for all we know.
Herbert's probably one of the better value. I hope it's not 50-50 split. I don't think that'll happen.
Herbert's a better value, but the problem is everybody sees him as a value, and everybody sees him with a buy, which is a buy, which completely makes him not that right now. But he's a starter for Chicago unless they go do something else.
Well, when David Montgomery resigns,
I don't think they're re-signing him. I haven't seen anything around a re-signing, and it was pretty much a foregone conclusion at the beginning of this year that they weren't going to re-sign David Montgomery.
I mean, I hope they don't. It's with all that money to play with.
Yeah,
if Herbert somehow survives and is penciled in starter, which would, in my opinion, be the correct move.
Yeah, I think so too.
I absolutely, to the moon. That's why if you want to get him, you got to get him now.
Yeah,
like the longer you wait, especially once free agent hits, it's
not a great value right now, but it's only going to go up.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's been productive given his opportunities every time.
I mean, super efficient, especially in the offense, in these RPO style offense with one of the league's best rushing quarterbacks. It's
opens things up a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Sam Ellinger got to start. Didn't go well. There's a long snapper that went in this round.
There
were two long snappers that went in this round.
Look at them. Dude, Cameron Cheeseman. What a name. Cameron Cheeseman. Cheeseman.
I wonder if he still plays for Washington. Is he still long snapping footballs with them?
He is still on there. His name's still bold. He's still a part of, he's part of someone's roster. He's still
okay.
6'4", 237.
He is their starting long snapper. He's played every game.
Sweet.
Freaking huge.
Awesome.
He is huge. He's a big fucking dude.
Was there anything in the last round here?
I'm totally kidding. No.
Ben Skoranek?
No, we're done.
Ben Skoranek's the only thing that the biggest highlight name there.
Jake Funk.
Jake Funk was like
Jake Funk and
one night stand.
Jake Funk and Kylan Hill.
So was Ben Skoranek.
Ben Skoranek was there a couple days.
Kylan Hill. What could have been?
Oh, I know, right? I wish.
Sad day. All right,
Jared Doikes. Remember Jared Doikes?
Oh,
yeah.
It was a name for a while.
Dokes, yeah.
Dokes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Not a lot here.
No. That's why they call it the 7th round.
Oh, Jamar Jefferson. Remember when people wanted that to be a thing?
Ugh.
Yeah. So here's your takeaway from these two rounds. Your hits after round 2 are really, really low.
As they typically are.
Yep. So just remember that. Your day 3 hits are super low. And
so you hit the 4th round.
Yeah. Well, and that was just dumb luck. You normally don't see that either. So those were guys that I think Amon-Ra and Carter we considered slips, and Stevenson most of us missed on. And Hubbard, actually, people thought, I think at the time, that he slipped and went lower than he should have, and he actually ended up about right.
I mean, he was a hot name before his final year with Oklahoma State. He was up there with Najee, with Etienne in a lot of people's minds. This undersized but extremely explosive back that this is what happens when you test poorly at the combine. Like this is why you have to hire the right agent that will tell you, hey, like this is either run it or don't. And if Hubbard never did the combine, he would have probably gone day 2.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, that's the show.
Recording stopped.
Lamar Jackson's too.
Yeah.
Yeah. in the same draft class. I mean, come on. What are the odds of that going to the same team?
Why am I holding my phone? Oh, calendar. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm good for Thursday next week. There's a blind tasting for the Bourbon Society, but I'm not open Wednesday or Tuesday. So for me, it's Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, I can't go Tuesday. I got poker.
Yeah, well, Tuesday's also Valentine's Day, so there's that too.
Yeah, I don't celebrate that shit.
Yeah. Fucking
I can go
Hallmark
Tuesday.
holiday.
So yeah, it's Thursday or Friday from me.
Yeah, I don't really care either way which one we do.
Yeah, I'm fine either way because it's late enough for me here because it doesn't start till 9 anyways. But
Patrick
got
Mahomes.
my daughter's got
wins
basketball
MVP.
season, so that's what I'm into right now.
Oh, they've announced the Pro Bowl too.
Oh, and I got to go to the doctor's tomorrow because my daughter freaking cracked a bone in her foot, so I got to put a cast on it.
Yikes.
Jesus. All right,
Yeah.
so Mahomes wins MVP. No one's shocked by that.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Thomas, Darrell Revis, Rondé Barber, and DeMarcus Ware are among the 9 that goes to the Hall of Fame.
Well, my son will be happy that Mahomes won the MVP.
You name
I mean, he was
those
only-
Hall of Fame names again?
Here we go. I got the whole class. So Rondé Barber,
Deserved.
Chuck Haley or Chuck Hodley, Joe Klecko, Darrell Revis, Joe Thomas, Zach Thomas, and DeMarcus Ware, or really any of the big names that made it.
Cool. All deserving.
Someone named Ken Riley, and a head coach from the 70s.
All deserving, especially Joe Thomas.
Yeah. Joe Thomas
Zach
should have
Thomas,
always.
too. Zach Thomas was good for a long time. That was correctly.
He was. Did he Urlacher before Urlacher? Did he? I think he came into the league before Urlacher did. I can't remember. He's a beast.
He did come in before Urlacher did by 4 seasons, but he's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
Didn't get nearly enough credit. Played until 2008.
It took him a minute to get in. But those inside linebackers take so long too. They're kind of, they're not flashy.
20 sacks, over 1,000 career tackles, 74 for loss. $17 picks. Really good.
All right. I'm gonna hop off.
Yep, me too. So this can compile and I can upload it. I'll message you guys. Do you guys have a preference on Thursday or Friday? Because there's a blind tasting on Thursday I could attend, but I don't have to. You normally have trivia.
We can
on
go
Thursday.
Friday I have no issues either way. If you want to go,
let's go Friday.
If you want to do the blind tasting Thursday, we'll just go Friday.
You normally do trivia on Thursdays too, don't you, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just do Friday.
Okay.
Friday it is.
Works for me.
Friday it is. Perfect.
All right, friends.
All right, guys.
All right, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Later.